The dress didn't cling, but I kept tugging at it, like I couldn't settle into my own skin. Soft lights glowed in the corners of the room, and the music, a low, sultry hum, curled around us like smoke. Jack just stood there, smirking, not saying much. I thought he was joking about inviting someone over. Then came the knock at the door. Before I dive in, if you've read this far, hit that like button and subscribe. It means more than you know. And if you're new here, welcome. You've picked a hell of a story to start with. Thanks for being here. Let's get to it. The fabric felt soft, unfamiliar, sliding against me as I moved. It shimmered under the dim light, catching every flicker of the candles Jack had scattered around. Of course, he picked at nothing flashy, nothing tight. It slipped off one shoulder, pooling slightly at the back. A strange choice, but it hit hard. Candles flickered across the room, their glow dancing on the edge of Jack's glass. He didn't say a word at first, just gave me that quiet, unreadable smile I fell for years ago. It was the kind of smile that could unravel you, make you question everything. The playlist he'd curated played softly in the background, slow, deliberate, like it knew something I didn't. I tugged at the dress again, nerves getting the better of me. So I teased him. "Who exactly are you expecting tonight, Jack?" He didn't answer right away, just handed me a glass of wine and nodded toward the couch. His eyes held mine, steady, like he was daring me to ask again. "More of a surprise than a guest list," he said, smooth as whiskey. I laughed, but it died in my throat when the doorbell rang. Jack didn't flinch, didn't blink. He set his drink down and moved toward the door like he'd been waiting for it all along. The air shifted, heavy, like the room was holding its breath. I froze, watching his back as he opened the door. A man stepped inside. A nod, no words. Just the click of polished shoes on hardwood and the faint scent of something expensive cologne, sharp and commanding. He moved like he owned the space, like he'd been here before. Tall, clean-shaven, navy shirt with the sleeves rolled up once. Jack stepped aside, silent. No introductions, no explanations. It was deliberate. That's silence, like a blade held just above the skin. The stranger glanced at me, then strode to the couch with a confidence that made my stomach twist. I shot a look at Jack, searching his face, but he just sipped his wine, calm as ever. His calm was a lie, though I could feel it, the way it masked something darker. I turned back to the stranger, now lounging on the couch, relaxed but focused, his eyes scanning the room. He wasn't just sitting there, he was claiming it, every inch. I shifted my stance, adjusting the dress again. "There's more," I whispered, not sure if I meant it for Jack. He looked at me, held my gaze for a beat too long, then turned back to the kitchen without a word. That look, it was a warning, a promise, a confession all at once. He was at the door before I could ask anything else. The lock clicked softly, and my nerves tightened not from fear, but from something I couldn't name. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff, knowing the fall was coming. Behind me, the first guest sat still, elbows on his knees, perfectly at ease. His presence was a weight, pressing against my skin. He watched me as I shifted, his eyes steady, unyielding. No other knock came, but the door opened again. The sound of it creaked through me, sharp and final. I turned just in time to see Jack nod to someone I couldn't yet see, stepping back to let them in. Another man entered. Older by a few years, maybe 42, relaxed in a dark jacket, collar unbuttoned. His eyes lingered on me, heavy, like he was measuring something I didn't understand. He glanced down, then at the others, still silent. The room felt smaller now, the air thicker, like it was closing in. I froze for a moment, stepping back, caught between them. Their presence wasn't just physical, it was a force, pulling at something deep inside me. The room shifted, not pressure, but presence, everything quieter, sharper. I looked at Jack. He didn't move, just tilted his head toward the chair. That tilt, it was a command, soft but undeniable. I sat slowly, still trying to piece together what was happening. My heart was a drumbeat, loud in my ears, drowning out the music. The first guest stood, shrugged off his jacket, folded it, and set it near the armrest. He stepped closer, resting his hand on the back of the couch, not touching me, just close. Close enough to feel the heat of him, the intention, deliberate, not casual, but not forceful either. He stayed there, against the wall, eyes locked on me, silent. His silence was louder than words, heavy with purpose. Jack stood beside him, arms crossed, watching. The room stayed quiet, too quiet, like the calm before a storm breaks. I sat still, his presence near, unchanging. Then a sharper knock at the door. My pulse jumped. It was like a gunshot in the silence, shattering the moment. He reached out, and I let him pull me up. His touch was firm, not gentle, but it didn't demand, it invited. I stood as the second man shifted slightly to the side. Jack turned the knob, and the third guest stepped in. He walked in like he'd been waiting outside all along. Tall, clean-cut, sharp eyes under tousled hair. He moved with a predator's grace, every step calculated. He didn't glance at the others. His eyes locked on mine, and I couldn't look away. It was like he saw through me, straight to the parts I kept hidden. The first guest stayed close, silent, steady. The second stood just behind, not touching, but close enough to feel. His nearness was a pulse, a rhythm I couldn't ignore. No one spoke. The door slammed shut, and the sound echoed in my chest. It wasn't just a door closing, it was a line being drawn. Then, movement. The man behind me shifted, and I stepped forward without thinking, aware of the first still beside me. The room felt alive now, every breath a spark. The third guest came closer, unhurried, stopping just in front of me. His presence was electric, pulling the air tight between us. My chest rose, tight with something I couldn't name. Desire, fear, guilt, they tangled together, inseparable. The second man adjusted his stance behind me. I felt the shift, not contact, and something in me coiled tighter. It was like a trap closing, slow and deliberate. The first stepped closer, and I turned to him instinctively, drawn, not asked, not told. It was a pull I couldn't fight, didn't want to. They moved, not in sync, but with some kind of rhythm. One stepped aside, the other brushed a sleeve from his jacket. My breath caught. The air was thick, heavy with what wasn't said. I stood frozen between them, not knowing why I didn't move. Every breath made the room smaller, the tension sharper. Then I felt him close behind me, his presence quiet but overwhelming. It was like standing in the eye of a storm, everything still but charged. "This is how you imagined it," he whispered, almost to himself. His voice was a blade, cutting through the silence, low and dangerous. I focused on the stillness in the room. We all sat, the silence heavy, unbroken. It was a moment suspended, fragile, ready to shatter. He stood close, quiet, keeping his distance but not really. His nearness was a weight, pressing without touching. I noticed him there, both of them, close, silent. The room hummed with it, the unspoken, the forbidden. A stir in the air, maybe the room, maybe my thoughts. It went like drowning in slow motion, every second pulling me deeper. Then I heard steps approaching, each one louder, closer, like a heartbeat. The door opened again, and the fourth man stepped in before I could turn. He moved with purpose, his presence a shock to the system. His eyes were steady, his presence unmistakable. He didn't just walk in, he claimed the room, owned it. The others didn't move. The second man stayed behind me, close enough to feel, but not reaching. His restraint was its own kind of power, pulling at me. The first stayed beside me, his focus unreadable but intense. It was like being caught in a web, every thread pulling tighter. I stood between them, unsure what came next. My pulse raced, my thoughts a mess of want and warning. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low near my shoulder. It wasn't a question, wasn't a demand, just a presence, steady and close. No rush, no questions, just near. I stood still, caught between waiting and hesitating. Every nerve was alive, screaming, but I couldn't move. Then he adjusted something behind me. No hurry, no explanation. It was a small move, but it shifted everything, like a key turning in a lock. A shift, barely visible, but I felt it settle across the room. The silence deepened. It wasn't just quiet, it was heavy, final, like a verdict. Even the air felt different, like something had been decided, something I wasn't ready to face. One of them leaned down, adjusting something near my feet. Methodical, focused. It was deliberate, every move calculated to keep me on edge. I stood still, aware of the movement just behind me. It was like they were circling, closing in without touching. I shifted slightly, my stance adjusting before I could think why. My body was moving on its own, caught in their rhythm. Someone passed close enough to notice, but no one spoke. The silence was a language now, speaking what words couldn't. One stopped behind me just close enough, though he never touched. His nearness was a pressure, a heat I couldn't ignore. Jack still hadn't said a word. I noticed him watching, quiet. From where he stood, his eyes were a storm, calm on the surface, raging underneath. I sat without thinking, not directed, just moving with the room's rhythm. It was like falling, slow and inevitable. One was close, another adjusted his stance. Every move was a step closer to something I couldn't name. I focused on the stillness over any sound. It was louder than anything, that quiet, pulling me in. They leaned forward again, continuing their silent gestures, deliberate but restrained. It was a dance, every step measured, every pause loaded. One stood beside me, his presence steady. He was a shadow, solid, unyielding. Another stayed out of sight, not interfering, but I felt him, like a weight in the air. One raised a hand lightly, then lowered it. The gesture was small, but it hit like a spark. I breathed too fast, unsure if it was nerves or pressure. Something inside me was unraveling, thread by thread. Something snapped, like I was waiting for a signal I hadn't heard. It was coming, whatever it was. and I couldn't stop it. Everything hit at once, the attention, the silence, the presence. It was too much, too heavy, like a wave crashing over me. I didn't know where to look. Someone whispered something, but I didn't catch it. It was gone before I could grasp it. Like smoke. I didn't hear it. I was following the room's rhythm without knowing why. It was instinct, raw and unthinking, pulling me under. A wave of awareness ran through me, nothing specific, but unmistakable. It was like waking up in a dream, everything sharp and unreal. My focus scattered, my breathing shallow, my stance locked. I was trapped in the moment, every second stretching out. I couldn't track who was near. They were everywhere. Their presence a net I couldn't escape. The moment blurred at the edges. One leaned close, another reached out. The third was near, waiting. The fourth spoke, his voice low and steady, and it hit me like a shock. I shivered. It wasn't cold, it was something deeper, something I couldn't shake. I shifted in place. My stomach knotted for a reason I couldn't name. It was guilt, desire, fear, all twisted together. I tried to speak, but nothing came out right away. My voice was stuck, caught in the weight of the moment. They didn't touch. They just were steady, present. Their presence was enough. More than enough. My thoughts jumped all at once. My breath stopped, my stance locked, my eyes widened. I was drowning in it. The tension, the pull. My hands gripped the edge of the cushion. It was the only thing keeping me grounded. And in the silence that followed, I realized no one had moved for a long time. The room was still, but it was alive, pulsing with what hadn't been said. Jack stepped forward. He checked his watch. His calm was a mask, hiding something I didn't want to see. Be honest. If you were the one he had in mind, would you stay? Or would you walk away before the final knock? Drop it in the comments. I'll read them. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss what's coming. Thanks for being here.